There are two places in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, where Melchizedek is mentioned, and one place in the New Testament where he's mentioned. This is Genesis 14:18. Umalkizedek melech shalem hotzi lechem vayayin vehu chohen le'el elyon. The word for melech is right here. Tzedek is righteousness. The yod right here, some people think that it means mine. There's a pronominal suffix chirik yod that means it belongs to me. So it would be my king of righteousness. But it's possible that this yod here is actually a case ending, referring to making this word right here the genitive case, which simply means king of or the king of righteousness. So his name means the king of righteousness. Melech Shalem means he's the king of Shalem. The Shalem right here is probably the Shalem that shows up in the name of Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. It also happens to be the name of a false god, Shalem. People will tell you different things about what the name of the city Jerusalem means, city of peace, something like that. And that sounds all well and good. It probably means Yeru, casting a cornerstone. They cast a cornerstone, Shalem, for the god Shalem. Now, obviously, God takes this and turns it into a different meaning later on in biblical history so that Israel cleans up the theology of the Bible, right? And Hotzi is the he feel causative binyan of yatsa, to go out. So he caused to go out lechem, which is bread, vayayin, and wine. Now, to us, this looks like he brought him a meal. But rabbinically, this lechem vayayin is referring to the bread and wine portions of the priesthood. And in midrashic thought, it is Melchizedek who passes along his priesthood, priestly order to Abraham, who would then pass it on eventually to Levi through his sons. So Levi's priesthood is coming from Melchizedek. Vehu chohen, and here we have the implied verb is or was. Chohen is literally a minister, but the vast majority of the time in the Bible, it refers to a priest. So he is or was a priest, le'el elyon. Le'el, El is the name of, or refers to the God of the Bible. Incidentally, it also refers to the chief god of the pantheon of the city of Ugarit, a close neighbor of Israel, 2000 BCE or BC. And then Elyon comes from the root Allah, which is to ascend. So Elyon means the highest. So El Elyon, the Most High God, as this translation puts it. The next verse, 19, Vayvarechehu Vayomar Baruch Avram Le'el Elyon Koneh Shamayim Va'aretz. All right, this right here is the Vayiktol form of the root Berech with a pronominal suffix on the end referring to 3ms him. So he, referring to Melchizedek, blessed who, him, or Ehu, him. He blessed him, or this is the narrative past Vayiktol. So, and then he blessed him. Vayomar, this is the pausal form of Vayomer. And he said, now because it's in pausal form, we know there's a comma right there, which means what follows is probably the quotation. Baruch Avram, Baruch is the passive participle of the root berech, so he is blessed or blessed is. Here they have blessed be. You can see it's in italics and grade because it's provided for a good translation. It's not literally there, but then again, the verb to be often goes missing in Hebrew. Baruch Avram. So Abram is blessed or shall be blessed or be blessed. Avram is Abraham's name before his name change. We get a couple of possible interpretations of his name. The most popular one is Av, father, Ram, exalted, from the root Resh Vav Mem. But another possibility could actually be Aleph Bet Resh, which has to do with might or mighty one, and belonging to them. This makes a little bit more sense once we get Avraham, where a hey is inserted here, where the hey and mem are referring to Hamon, a multitude. So he is the mighty one of a multitude in the sense of a custodian or even a warrior. We get to see Abram fighting these, 5 kings versus 4. But most people will stick to the biblical interpretation that it's Av, father, Ham, of multitudes, and then they're kind of stuck with, not knowing what to do with this resh here. Some will speculate that Raham must mean something about multitudes, but there's absolutely no proof for it. It's speculation. So Abram is blessed, El Elyon. Lamed here usually means to, for, belonging to. So it somehow El Elyon is related to the blessing of Avram. Which El Elyon? Which Most High God? Koneh Shamayim Va'aretz. Koneh is a participle meaning owner, possessor, maker, something, usually something, or buyer is what it means in modern Hebrew. But in biblical Hebrew, it's usually possessor of Shamayim va'aretz. Shamayim is the heavens. Aretz is the earth. In this penultimate word, we get to see the original form of the conjunctive vav as va rather than v. Most of the time when we see the conjunctive vav, it has already reduced to a shva under it. But here, it's the full kamatz. All right, and now we're in verse 20, where he's continuing the blessing. Uvaruch el elyon asher migen tzarecha beyadecha vayiten lo maaser mikol. This is a passive participle again. The conjunctive vav has now changed to u because of the bilabial bet that has followed. Remember, before a bet, a mem or a pay, an unstressed bet, mem, or pay, the conjunction va or v turns into u because the original form was wa, which is bilabial, wa. And then bet is also bilabial, so it causes uvaruch. And so, and blessed is El Elyon, Most High God, Asher Migen. This is the PL verb to, it says here, delivered. Tzarecha, the ones causing grief or narrowness or trouble, your enemies. Beyadecha. This is from yad, hand, in your yad. And that segol right there shows up in pausal form. Vayiten lo. This is a vayiktol of the root natan. The missing nun has assimilated into the tav. Vayiten lo, and he has given to him. He gave to him, this is narrative past, and then he gave to him, that is, Abram gave to Melchizedek, Maaser Mikol, a tenth of everything. Now, this refers back to how the priest receives a tithe, and in fact, priests will tithe to the high priest as well. So this idea of tithing, this is probably the oldest one in the Bible, referring back to tithing. Maaser is from the root eser, 10. So maaser is making a tenth of, or a tithe. Mikol, of all. And then the story continues. That's all we get to hear about Melchizedek until we get to Psalm 110, verse 4. This is generally thought of as being a messianic prophecy. It's referring to let's see, yeah, Psalm of David, declaration of the Lord to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I place your enemies as a footstool. This is quoted in the book of Hebrews, which we'll look at here in a second. Nishba Adonai velo yinachem, ata chohen leolam al divrati Malkizedek. All right, so we get to see the Malkizedek right here as the name Melchizedek that we saw earlier in Genesis. You can certainly see that the translation here understands this as a proper name. But it could also be, like we talked about earlier, it could actually be King of Righteousness, where we still have that ancient Chirik Yod right there, referring to the genitive case of the word. Nishba is from the root Shin Bet Ain, having to do with complete or fulfilling an oath. So the Lord has sworn, it's in the Nifal binyan, so passive. The Lord has sworn, velo yinachem, and he will not or shall not relent or repent. Ata chohen, you, we have to supply the verb are or were or will be. Chohen, a priest, a minister. Le'olam, forever. This is from the root ein lamed mem, which means vanish or as far as you can see. And the word olam, it refers to as far as you can see, kind of like the world, the universe, forever, something like that. Al divrati. Malkizedek. Okay, so this is the way that it's being translated here is over literally my word or my things, something like that. This could be referring to an Aramaic dibraya, which refers to the no, excuse me, that's not referring. The it's in the Shmoneh Esrei where this refers to the order of the priesthood and the things of the temple. Here it's being translated the order of, but it's from the root davar, which has to do with word, thing, matter, issue. But it's in the feminine right here with that feminine tav. And then the chirik yod here could be referring to mine or the genitive case. Again, like we saw earlier. Here they don't include the suffix as mine or belonging to me. Adonai, well, let me clear this. And go to the next one. Yeah, okay, so this is okay, this is less important, I suppose. So let me jump from now over to the book of Hebrews. Okay, at the end of the book of Hebrews 6, this over here on the left-hand side is is not an ancient version of the Hebrew translation of the Greek New Testament of Hebrews. It's just it's a later translation. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Delitzsch. But he was a Hebraist, Delitzsch was, so it's still worth studying. We've got here the end of Hebrews chapter 6. where Jesus, Yeshua, is being likened to Melchizedek as a high priest forever. Asher ba, who comes, Shama, towards there, Ba'adenu, on our behalf, Yeshua, that is the subject, the one who is coming, Yeshua, Ha'over, the one crossing over, Lefanenu, before us, Vayehi Chohen, and he was, or looks like a narrative past. I'm not quite sure. No. Yeah, it looks like a narrative past, even though it probably shouldn't be. And then he became, I guess, Chohen, a minister or priest, Gadol, the high priest, Leolam. There it is again, forever. Al Divrati. You can see that Delitzsch took straight from the Psalms, from Psalm 110 here, Malkizedek, probably because that's what the writer of Hebrews was referring to. So again, according to the order of Melchizedek, king of righteousness. Now, continuing on to chapter 7, first part of chapter 7. Kize Malkizedek, for this Melchizedek, Melech Shalem, king of Salem, Kohen le'el Elyon, what we just saw, priest of the God Most High, Asher Yatza Likrat Avraham. Okay, so here's the same root as we saw earlier, Hotzi, to bring, to cause to go out. Here it says, he, that is Melchizedek, came out, went out. Likrat, toward Avraham. Here we get to see the later name Abraham rather than the earlier name Avram. Bishuvo, this is a construct, an infinitive construct. So we've got in his returning, or in the action of his returning. Mehakot, there's another infinitive construct right there. Hakot is the he feel verb that means to strike. And me is referring to the word min. Usually min is attached to the front of the word with a chirik there and a strong dagesh there. But since hey is a guttural, it's going to reject that dagesh and compensatorily lengthen that chirik to a tzere. So me hakot, from the striking of, et hamlachim, the striking of the kings, vayvarechehu. There's that vayiktol form that we saw in Genesis. And then he blessed him. And then the next verse in Hebrews 7 talks about the tithing, va'asher chalaklo, and the one that he divided unto him, that is Abraham, there's your subject right there, Avraham. So Abraham divided unto him, Melchizedek, maaser mikol, a tenth of everything. Shmohu, his name is Melech Hatzdaka. Now, this is the same root as same root as tzedek, but now it's in the feminine tzedakah. There's an irony here because in modern Hebrew, tzedakah means charity. So it's interesting to see that he's giving a tenth of everything. He's giving this, essentially stuff and money and anything worth tithing to Melchizedek. And so the writer of Hebrews seems to be playing off of how Melchizedek and Melech Hatzdaka, almost like the king of charity / righteousness, and Ve'od Melech Shalem, and then also king of Salem, who Melech HaShalom. Okay, so here he's playing off of how his name, the fact that he's the king of Shalem is indicative of how he's a king of Shalom, peace. So there's a double play on words the tzedek with hatzdaka, and shalem with hashalom. All right, and then it gets a little bit mystical, or maybe I should say esoteric here, because the writer of Hebrews is going to use something that we don't see from the Tanakh in order to create a kind of midrash about Yeshua. Be'en av, in without father, or in not being or not having a father. Be'en em, and without having a mother. Be'en yachas. This is translated here as genealogy, but it probably might be referring to like yachas, connection, yeah, connection, I guess is the best way to put it. Without connection, here it's referring to genealogy. Uleyamav en tchila, and as for his days, there is no beginning. What? What do you mean? How can we jump to this conclusion that, oh, you know what? We know that Melchizedek has no beginning of days. Well, whether that's historically true or not is less relevant. The fact that it doesn't show up in the Bible is what the author of Hebrews is really harping on. He's saying, we don't read anything about the origin of Melchizedek. He simply shows up and everybody's supposed to know who he is. Ulechayav en sof. Okay, he's doing the same thing here. And for his life, there is no end. Okay, did Melchizedek actually die? Some people will read this verse right here in Hebrews and say, no, he never died. Okay, whether he historically died is less important. What's important is that in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, it says nothing about him dying. And the fact that he shows up later on in Psalms, Psalm 110, whether it is just referring to a king of righteousness or if it's referring to the Melchizedek of Genesis doesn't really matter. The writer of Hebrews connects the two of those verses and says, look, the Bible doesn't say anything about the death of Melchizedek, so we can surmise from that his life must have no end. And then he draws a parallel from that to the messianic expectation of a high priest in the heavenly tabernacle in perpetuity, forever. Then he goes on, Uvezot nidme leven ha'elohim. And for this one, now usually zot is feminine. So what is it referring to here that's feminine? That's a good question. And for this one, nidme is the passive nifal of likening or comparing. So he has been made like, or he has been compared, leven ha'elohim, to the son of the God, referring to the Son of God. Why there's a ha here is a big question. It shows up several times in the Bible with ha, several times without. And there are lots of interpretations about why there needs to be a ha in front of Elohim. If Elohim is God, is a title, then why does he need ha in front of it, right? Hu omed, he is standing, or remains, they have here. He is standing bichunato, in his active ministry or ministry, right? In his ministry, la netzach, forever. And here it's called perpetuity. Remember that the root natzach, like linatzeach, means either to conduct as an orchestra or to win, as in be victorious. So the idea of netzach is overcoming and enduring, and it ultimately means forever. La netzach. Well, I hope you enjoyed this study on Melchizedek. Keep studying your Bibles.